All right. So, welcome to episode 5 of Coach Connect. I'm Dr. Diego Salinas, your host from Bibly. We have a very special guest today, Jen Wright. Jen Wright is the founder of Wellspired Co., where she combines her passion for wellness with a deep commitment to supporting health and wellness coaches as they grow their career and practices. With over 14 years of digital marketing experience and 6 years as a nationally board certified health and wellness coach herself, Jen has become known for her ability to blend practical business advice with a genuine client-focused approach to coaching. She's dedicated to helping coaches create sustainable, fulfilling careers that prioritize the well-being of both clients and themselves. Wellspire Co. provides mentorship, advanced training, and community for certified health and wellness coaches looking to build sustainable, fulfilling careers, enhance professional confidence, and create meaningful client transformations, whether it's prior practice, work with organization, or balancing both. Jen's also a national board certified health and wellness coach and draws on her background in leadership and business development to help coaches navigate the challenges of running a thriving practice. She's passionate about creating space where coaches can connect, learn, and grow, and excited to share some experience and insights with her on the next generation of wellness professionals. So, Jen, welcome to the platform. Really happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. That was a really fun introduction. It's always an experience listening to someone read your bio, right? So,
Yeah.
but thank you.
Yeah,
That was
you're
so
like,
great. So,
yeah. So, Jen, as we started, curious, we all have little origin stories of where we started coaching or how our coaching has evolved to what we're doing now. So, I'm curious how you started going from being a coach to helping other coaches and kind of how that all began.
yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. Well, yeah, if this is the first time anybody is coming across and seeing me, hi, nice to meet you. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm the founder of Wellspired Co. And it's actually all started out back in 2016. I was a new mom and kind of navigating the work-life balance of being a mom and having a full-time career, and
Mhm.
really started to find a passion in discovering kind of how does this all work? How do we do this without completely burning ourselves out? Things like that. So I found a Mayo Clinic and became a certified wellness coach with Mayo, and then actually sat for the national board and became nationally board certified in 2017. So that's where that started. And then as I was building my own
So you're one of the first. You're one of the first ones then in the
second, I
first
think I
year.
was like technically the second round. Yeah. So
Second.
it's hard to
Okay. Wow.
believe. Nicole from the national board, I keep getting my reminder emails from her because my recertification is due like really soon. And she's like, don't forget, so I'm in that process right
Yeah.
now. So I need to make sure I do that. But yeah, hard to believe I'm on my second round of recertification, which is great. And just, I cannot say enough amazing things about the national board and all the benefits and everything that they do for the advancement of health coaching. It's been
Yeah.
just amazing to be a part of that organization. So, um, but yeah, so I was doing a lot of kind of networking with other coaches, getting to talk to others, and the conversation kept kind of naturally going into how are you doing this? How are you running your business? And I loved those conversations. And so
Mm.
although I still do have my active client practice, coaching practice, I would say that I'm primarily focused and now switched over at Wellspired, really helping health and wellness coaches primarily. So, we are all about kind of really helping coaches to be able to kind of gain their confidence in whether it's starting their own practice or advancing their coaching skills. One of the things that I
Mm.
found when I first started in my coaching practice was that I went from being in an office all day long, collaborating on projects and really, being interactive with others all day long. And suddenly I was at a desk and I was at
Mm.
home. And if I wasn't on a phone call with a client, I was sitting there by myself, and it became extremely isolating and very lonely very quickly. So I needed
Yeah.
to figure out a way around that. And that was really through that connection piece, collaboration with other coaches, and especially other coaches that were going through private practice or building a private practice just like I was, because they understood some of those nuances of challenges of running your business and marketing and being able to sell yourself, right? And some of those things that feel really awkward, especially when you go and you train for so long to be a health and wellness coach, but no one really teaches you how to be a business owner, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the evolution of Wellspired came in. I started doing some coaching and consulting for coaches to help them grow their business. And then next phase was Wellness Coach Business Academy. That was born in 2021. I say it was born because it is a full-on birthing process to go through
Yeah.
introducing a program like
Gestation period took a
that.
while to get through there, right? Like, yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
all overnight.
So yeah, we're just over 2 years with Wellness Coach Business Academy and have helped over 100 coaches to be able to start their own or relaunch their own health and wellness coaching practice. And it's been just an incredible journey. I just love what we do every single day, and the idea that, I can grow my own coaching practice and I'd be able to help just so many clients, because I can only work with so many people, or I can take the skills and, the background that I have and be able to extend that out to other coaches out there and help them help people in that expansion and that reach. That possibility for me is really exciting, and that's what gets me really passionate about what I do, is just knowing that I'm able to help us be able to be more visible as board certified health and wellness coaches in that process. So
Yeah. Jen, I met Jen at a conference earlier this year, and like clearly very passionate. Even the last part, your passion really came through there. It seems like, it's you mentioned something, a leveraging effect, right? You were successful at starting your own practice, but there's only so many hours a day you can coach, right? And same thing is, like, how can we help other coaches with what we've learned and really empower them? So now more people get coached, more people will be coached, we'll be a better place, right? Kind of have that spreading effect. And then what do you think? So it sounds like that in your solo career before Wellspired started, that you were successful here, and then people kept asking for advice, and then kind of that conversation started, the birthing process of Wellspired Business Academy eventually. What do you think were the things you had in the background that made you so successful in your solo practice that you're able to then like kind of follow forward?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it kind of starts with the one thing that all coaches have when they first start their own health and wellness coaching practice, which is some kind of a passion for the work that they're doing, right? We have to start there always. And so I felt really called and really passionate about working with, working moms and managing that work-life balance. And not necessarily that I had all the answers, because I certainly didn't, and I still don't today, right? But
Hmm.
that coaching is this beautiful process where we get to kind of reach in with someone's strengths and values and what motivates them and come up with this really great, unique plan that would be something that I would never be able to create on my own. It's something they created for themselves. And that was so exciting for me to be able to work with a client and have them come back after, a session or two and say like, wow, I'm noticing some giant differences. Like I noticed that I go to work and I just did a presentation and I showed up so well for it because I actually took the time to take care of myself, or whatever it would have been, the transformation. And that lit me up. That was so exciting to see that transformation in my clients, that, you know, that's what kept me driving, because at the end of the day, having a private coaching practice, it's not always easy, right? There's ups and downs. There's clients that no show. There's people who do a handful of sessions with you and then they kind of drop off, and that's okay. Like life
Yeah.
happens, but it's really hard not to internalize that as a health coach and say, "Gosh, that must be me. It's something I'm doing." And so, it's the passion at that. You always have to go back to the passion at the end of the day to say, okay, you know what? I, I'm really making a difference. I'm making an impact here. And it helps you get through some of those tough moments. I'd say first and foremost, that was it, right? Second of all, I would say, it's all about, I always say, like, you have to practice what you do, right, to get
Mhm.
yourself out there. So you have to know, like, who are you talking to and how do you help
Yeah.
them? And what are the words you're saying that really get them to kind of perk up their ears and say, okay, I'm listening. It sounds like what you're offering is something I really need and I want to hear more about it. And then just knowing how to get them through that customer journey, right?
Mm.
And I think like
Yeah.
the more you can get comfortable with that, the easier that process gets, to be able to invite them to take that next step with you as a coach. And it becomes less like, the more you can practice it, the less awkward it feels too. And the more you start having those like right connections, that it's like, oh, that felt amazing. It didn't feel like a sales process. It felt like a conversation. I want more of that. And the more you can do it, the more you
Mm.
experience that. And then the easier it is. So it's just, there's kind of this like snowball effect that you have to know, especially if you're just starting out your coaching practice. It will happen. It just takes time sometimes, and it takes practice. And the more you can get out there, the faster it'll happen, So
Yeah. So I kind of took a few notes. That was so much gold wisdom there. So let's talk about behavior change, right? We're coaches helping people with behavior change.
Mhm.
That's a behavior learning. First of all, learning coaching skill set is a behavior change, right? Like
Yeah.
people say, you're training and you throw out a judgment phrase or a leading question. Oops, yeah, because for a few decades you weren't thinking this way. So it takes a while for you to think about in a coaching mindset. You're not trying to solve, like you said, you're not solving their problem, letting the client to be the owner of their solution. Or even solution, when I say, is there a problem? We're serving. People can help you get improve without a problem being there. But then also, the more you practice, less awkward it gets, right? I did a lecture this week on the neuroscience of behavior change, that just anything you do for a while becomes more easily, right? The first time you tie your shoe, or a kid does, it takes them all the energy. Now you could, if you're talking to someone, you can bend over and just tie your shoe while doing it.
Yes.
And so I know a lot of coaches, when you go through this energy intensive period of learning the coaching skill set. But as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, that's very completely different, nothing to do with skill set with, well, there's some overlap, sales, starting solo business.
Yes.
Right. And there's not a lot of programs say we have a business, coaching thing, but it's really like 1 hour. It's not enough to keep you going, because as you mentioned, it's just a long journey as well.
Yeah.
Right. And you said being by yourself, like I say, just because you're a solo coach doesn't mean you have to be lonely.
Right.
And if you don't have your community to support you, to say it is normal, you're going to get a lot of no show, this is going to happen, and continue on. I've seen people just kind of drop off without that. And
Yeah.
I remember actually coach this week, a freak asking me for help for the elevator speech. And I was telling them that we did a practice where in my training program where we had, we'd stand up and for 10, 15 minutes around the room, elevator speech, every minute switch. And man, at first I remember being clunky and be like, oh, it's a neuroscience of it, like a paragraph, right? And then about like 7 minutes in, I was like, yeah, help people out with going from burnout to happiness, right? So the more you practice it, and a lot of coaches, I think also, we are in a giving profession and we don't practice asking for money or that business that feels somehow weird to us, or feels awkward to us, or feels maybe even dirty or wrong, or some version of it, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you see that that's something that comes up with the people you help serve, or what insights can you give us to that mindset and how we can change that?
Yeah, that's a really common challenge that I hear from coaches often. And there's a certain level of personal development work and kind of understanding what your own internal stories are that are kind of leading you into that belief system that you might have and things like that, right? And really breaking that down. And I will tell you that owning your own business is the most intense personal development work you will ever do in your life. I mean, if you were just starting out in your own coaching practice, I, will probably recommend try finding a really good therapist or a really good coach, right? That is, has some background in that area, because you will do some work and some digging internally to try to get through some big roadblocks that you'll find, are the edges, right? Our shadows and our edges that we have, and exploring that. And money is very much a common edge or shadow that people have. And so when we're looking at this, right, it's really understanding, well, what is money? Like, what is it that we're doing? And so if we can take the emotion out of it, because a lot of times when we're first starting in that money conversation or asking for money, there's a tie there. And so it's breaking down and understanding, like, what is that tie? What's that emotional connection that I'm feeling when it comes to money? And let's, for a second, just put it in a little container. We're going to close it and we're going to set it off. And now it's just a thing. Now it's just a resource. It has no emotion connected to it. It has no meaning connected to it. It's literally just if you gave me 5 pebbles for coaching, let's think about it that way, right? And what did those 5 pebbles do for me, right? And if you can try to translate it in that way for yourself, then at that point, it's just a resource, right? And at that point, it's money comes in. It allows me to be able to do something with my business, whether that's have a platform that makes it easier for me to run my practice, or be able to do something. Because at the end of the day, you have to bring in a certain amount of revenue to cover your expenses, to pay yourself, in order to have a sustainable business. And if you can't do that at the bare minimum, then you actually don't really have a business. You have a hobby, a very expensive hobby, right? Because it is expensive to have systems and platforms, and you have to be able to manage that. It's not unlike any other business that's out there. I sometimes like to use the analogy of a burger shop, right? So a burger shop, right? They have to buy buns, and they have to buy meat, and they have to buy tomatoes and lettuce and all the good stuff, the ketchup, And that doesn't come free, right? And so if we can think about our business, and this is one of the things that I teach many students, is to have that separation between being the coach and being the business owner, and knowing that those two roles are two separate things. Because if you put them two together, right, it's really difficult for us to maybe talk about money conversations with clients and things like that. But if we're starting to look at it from a business side, to say it's a resource and it allows me to run my business and it allows me to be sustainable, then it comes at a different angle, right? And you're also able to separate it from the value that you're providing to that client, knowing that people want to pay you to get that transformation that you're offering them. Because if you were to give it for free, most people would feel super awkward about that. They would be like, wow, you just did such a great service for me. How can I possibly repay you? And humans don't actually love the one-sided exchange. They want to reciprocate. It's a natural human tendency that we have. So by them paying you, it's their way of saying, okay, now I feel like I can accept the service you're giving me in return. And that is like, if you can think about it that way and put all the other emotion and meaning aside, it's not as challenging, right? So there's a lot of layers that come into this, but yeah. And then also, I think the piece with money that comes into it is that people say, well, I want to be accessible to everyone, or I want to, equity is a big piece for me in my business, and I really want to be aware of that. And I totally agree. I think that we should make coaching accessible to everyone. We have to have a sustainable business first before we can do that, right? And if you have the means to do that to start, that's amazing. Go ahead and do that, right? But if you have to bring in a certain amount of revenue, pay yourself so much to cover your living expenses, take care of yourself, right? And then put time forward to, is it volunteering, right? It doesn't necessarily have to mean you're lowering your cost in your individual coaching sessions. How can you be accessible in other ways? Maybe it's pro bono sessions. Maybe, you, like I said, do so many volunteering hours a week. There's other ways that we can do that. A big question that comes related to money is, well, can I have a sliding scale practice? Of course you can. You absolutely can have a sliding scale practice. It gets quite a bit more complicated because you now have to start asking questions and figuring out how that's going to work. And so what happens is it creates so much complication in there that it almost makes it difficult for the client to work with you. So I say, instead of trying to figure that out and make that's like messy, right? Put that aside and just find other ways that you can be really accessible as a health coach so that you can have a sustainable practice. And if later on you've created great sustainability in your business and you want to give back even more, then for sure introduce a sliding scale option. It's a fabulous option to have, but for a brand new, just getting started coach, it's complicated. So
yeah. That's so much wisdom. I almost wish I had twice as much time. And talking to you has always been great, but there's so much there. So I think you're right. There's a lot of shadow work has to happen, like what you might have ties with money. And there's some things you said there. I want to add a few too that can help anchor us to that. Because, as we make changes, emotions lie behind the reason sometimes. That's okay. But as long as we have something to anchor to, I call them, logic challenges, it can help us out. Right. And so one new one you said was that people enjoy we're givers, right? In this profession, we enjoy giving.
yes.
People feel good when they give. If someone can give to you, right? Like someone said, when someone tries to offer me something, my initial inclination is like, no, I got it. I'm like, wait, I'm robbing them of the opportunity to give. We feel good when we give. So I never thought of that way, that you're kind of robbing your client of the opportunity to put their in that partnership. They're being vulnerable in some way, in a lot of ways, actually, in many ways. But now this is actually kind of helps them contribute to your well-being in a certain sense, right? And then we said about hobby. Someone told me this when I was early on. I was, medicine, okay, pro bono, or this and this, or give it away. And so as Diego, if you keep on giving this away for free, this will only be your hobby, as you said, an expensive hobby, because it does cost a lot of money to become board certified. But more importantly than that, as importantly, he says, you can only do your hobbies like Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
You're going to limit yourself how many people you actually can serve and help.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was one of my anchor points. Like, if I want to help more people out, I need to make it sustainable. It's this value conflict. I want to help everyone out. I want people to be well. I have to be sustainable to help the most people out. Right. That was one of my anchor points there. And that the responsibility of that business owner, right? If you want to help more people out, how do you keep the lights on? Even if you're a .org, if you're a nonprofit, which I've run before, there's still expenses to keep it on there.
Exactly.
And Jen, that kind of ties in nicely too, I think. a topic I hear people say sometimes is say, you mentioned not only starting the profession is expensive, going through a coach training program and, taking the boards and all that, but actually your burger analogy, there's overhead like businesses
Mhm.
have, right? You have to
Yep.
have a platform. What's going to manage your scheduling, your secure notes, right? Your payment processing. Also, Vibe, we're trying to do that all in one, right? To kind of lower those barriers, but there's still and to make the overhead lower. But people sometimes I hear them say, "Well, I'll start once I get a client." And my thought is, coaching is not a Kickstarter campaign,
Hmm.
right? People don't buy the idea of a burger. They want to see the burgers are there. You have to have your storefront ready before, so when you can meet people. Because I'm curious if you can expound this idea that my first year of sales coaching, a lot of people would come up. What do you do? I'm a coach. What is that? They're interested. I
Mhm.
didn't have my professional site ready. I didn't have the payment ready. I thought, sure, this afternoon I'm gonna go home and knock it out.
Mhm.
They never call me back. Like I will lose a lot. So I'm curious you can explain more like the order operations and how people maybe think about it and how they should be thinking about how to start or even restart that practice.
Yeah. Well, one of the stories that I love to share about when I first started my own coaching practice is that I actually rebuilt my website twice before I really like got it out there and started really selling my services, right? And like why did I do that? It was because that was my background. That's what I knew, right? So I when I
Mm,
felt like I was scared to get myself out there, I was like, "Oh, it has to be perfect. It has to be a perfect website." And I'd go back behind the computer and I'd hide. And so it does take time. So if that is you and you are doing that, it's probably question number one, asking yourself, am I really doing this because I feel like I'm ready or need it, or am I scared? Am I hiding behind something, right? And the reality is that you have to get out there before you're ready. Start talking about what you're doing. The more you can talk about it, the more you can work those words out. Talk about it with a family member. Talk about it with your
mhm.
pet. Like the more you can talk it out, and in a safe place, you can
Yeah.
figure out what you can say and it's more concise and it feels more put together so that when you do get in front of someone or you're at an event and someone's like, "So, what do you do?" You don't end up getting totally tongue tied, right? And feeling
Mm,
like I just totally, don't even know what I just said to that person, right?
yeah.
So having that elevator pitch obviously is a key piece to that. And so if we talk about the technical side, like you were saying, like what do I need in order to be able to actually get myself out there? For sure, like first and foremost, right? Like know who you work with, know the problems that you're solving, how you help solve those problems. I think one of the pitfalls, we'll kind of go back to that for a second, is that coaches focus way too much on the features that we offer and provide, the technical piece of it. Like, oh, well, it's a 30-minute coaching session and we talk about these things and it's behavior change and let's talk about the positive psychology and blah, 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 like all the stuff, right? And motivational
Oh,
interviewing
I've been
skills.
there.
I use lots of modalities in my coaching, and it's like by the time you're done talking to the average person who's never maybe even experienced coaching before, they're like, okay, great. That sounds like a lot, right? And so I think first and foremost, know how you're going to talk about what you do and who it is that you help. Having the
Mm,
ideal client locked in, having that validated, that you know who it is you help, the problems that you solve, and how you can speak to those things is key first and foremost. You can't really do
yeah.
anything else until you have that figured out. The next thing is you don't need a 10-page website to show all of those things, right? Especially when we're very first starting. We commonly will talk to our students about, creating, is it like a Canva website that is just one page? Vibely has been just such a great introduction for me because of the profile page that you can create. And it's a simple, easy way that you can actually share what you do with someone if they are interested, right? You've had that conversation and you just got them to perk their ears up and say, wow, that's interesting. I'd love to talk to you more about this. You can say, hey, no problem. I'll go ahead and send you, my Vibely page and they can book a call right from there. And that gets to do the work from there. Right. So, you don't need a ton of, a 10-page website. You don't need 10,000 pages of blog posts, and you don't need a giant social media following to be successful as a health and wellness coach. And especially as starting out, I think sometimes we sort of fall into, and especially if you are on Instagram and you're following any marketing gurus out there, they're going to try
Mm,
to tell you that you need this massive technical setup and you really don't, especially for the
yeah.
beginning. Um, And especially because the reality is this, if you're just in that very initial stage and you say, okay, you know what? I really want to work with this type of person. Chances are, after about the first 5 people you coach in that ideal client, you're probably going to shift it in some way. You're either going to have a big awakening and be like, whoa, I do not like working with this ideal client. I need to go find a different one. It's
Right.
like, it doesn't flow for me. I'm just not loving it. Right. That totally happened for me. Right.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, weight loss was like, people were coming to me for weight loss. So sure, I'll coach you on weight loss. And then after about 5 people, I was like, I don't like talking about weight loss. This is not,
Yeah.
doesn't feel good for me. Right. And so
Right.
it shifted and it changed. And so knowing that that's going to happen and it's totally okay for that to happen. Now, did I still have clients that came to me for weight loss? Absolutely. But that was not my starting intro conversation with them, right? We talked about work-life balance. We talked about getting your next promotion while still having kids at home and being able to do that gracefully. Like we talked about all of that. And then also they would come to me about other health and wellness related topics. And cool, I'm a coach. I can talk about any of it, right? So, so that is kind of, I think, first and foremost, like the reason why you don't want to spend hundreds of hours and so much money and resources on all the technical stack that people will tell you need is because likely after about that 5 point, it's going to shift in some way. So having something that's flexible, like a Vibely profile page, is so great because you can make those shifts really simply and easily. And then once you're like, okay, I've found my niche, I have found my ideal client, this is who I am so passionate about helping, and I get results with them, and I've got my process down. Okay, now take the investment, build your website, do your branding, all that stuff, like then do it. But don't do it right up front because you'll end up basically reinvesting later on. So
Again, I took so much. I want to continue expanding here. So that a few things, right? That starting off with how people find you, knowing who you're helping, right? And then even if I think John and co did a great job of the value profile, setting up what people need, because sometimes it could be, for me, it was overwhelming. About me, who do I do? Like, just start off with your experience page. Like, start off a little. And if you want a website, the profile is basically what the website's going to be covered, and you can piece it together little by little to get started, right? But also the fact that you can have unlimited number of services. Maybe you're not sure, do I want to do weight loss or mental health or new parents or students? Have a few services offered. When you meet someone who's that kind of client, offer them that service, and then you said you'll see what you like. When this applies to every field. When I was doing in residency, mentors was big. Hey, Diego, what should I do? I'm like, you got experience what it's like to be in surgery rotation, so you know what it's like, right? And that ties with people. Know who you are and what you're serving. So I still teach at Duke University where I trained, and we have a 1 hour business coaching at the end. And someone asked a question. They said, how do I explain to potential clients how good the training is here? And I was like, frankly, you're approaching it the completely wrong way. You haven't asked your client what they want. That's not what they want to know. They want to know how you're going to help them.
Yeah.
Right. And I started off thinking, oh, coaching is a neuro. Okay, cool. But it's like, so I thought, well, what are you solving? Make it simple. I help burnt out physicians get re-engaged with work. If they're more curious, you have your why. Well, how do you do it? Well, through using neuroscience and behavior, and you kind of let them ask more questions versus like, here's my overwhelmed, way too long, confusing elevator speech, right? And that really, people don't, frankly, unless they've already been coached in the past. Like, I look for coaches now because I know it helps me transform and transition, like you're saying.
Yeah.
People often look for coach. They look like, I want to X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
So what is that value add, that value prop to be higher for that client? And then why can you uniquely solve that? And Jen, to me, you mentioned the word passion a few times here, and kind of even your example of what you like to coach in. What I'm really passionate about, solo coaching. So coaching it's hard to make it a business. People know what coaching is. There's awareness issues, a whole influencer coach. I love people who coach, right? They've been trained. There's a lot of issues of why coaching is difficult. And a lot of times we work for companies or contract because there's stable pay, there's some insurance there. I get why. But then I felt, and a lot of coaches I talked to felt clipped, their wings clipped, because you can only do sessions for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You can't see adolescence the way I do in these companies. You can't talk about, I do 90-minute sessions for my clients, for example, or you can't do the way that you envision doing it. And to me, studies show the biggest predictor of success is therapeutic alliance. Right. And what's one of the biggest factors in that is the provider's authenticity and passion. Right. And so I had a client also early in the year. I was coaching a new mom, her daughter, maybe going through medical diagnosis, and talking about that evolution. And she's like, Diego, can you help me out too? My mom is sick, or she has diabetes. It's getting worse. She went, I'll pay for her. Can you coach her on weight loss?
Hmm.
Remember, I paused, Jen. I was like, I could. I've done it for years at a company, 3/4. I could, in theory. I was like, you know what's better? Someone who loves this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of my goal for is create a network of solo practitioners where we are our own specialists, the same way hospital has radiologists and surgeons and that do what they like to do, because when you're more passionate, you're going to go extra mile and be more comfortable there too as well. And that transformation, the last thing I'll maybe wrap up here is that I'm trying to help people understand that coaching is, to me, I'm curious what you think. There's 3 T's I say: transition, transformation, thriving. Right? If you can say, like, now, how do I want to? Oh, I want a weight loss coach for that transition. It does ultimately be holistic, but there's usually just a starting point. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're the right starting point, that helps you get to that next level with that person or a new provider. Just so much wisdom there. I wanted to just expand about some of that, or kind of reflect some of that.
That was good. That was so good to add to that. And one of my favorite phrases that is a little bit shocking for coaches, so I always brace them before I say it, but it's the reality is no one pays for coaching. No one pays for a coaching session, right? They pay
Right.
for what a coaching session is going to do for them. And so one of my favorite analogies that I use, kind of related to this, is I've never once woken up in the morning and said, you know what I'm missing in my life? I'm missing a hammer. I'm going to go to Home Depot and buy a hammer today. No, I wake up because I'm saying, oh, I've got those pictures I've been meaning to hang for the last 6 months and they're not getting done. And it's because I don't have the right tools to do it. And it's really bothering me. It's piling up. I need to go to Home Depot. I need to buy the tool to make that work. And the coaching session is your tool. So how do you help them wake up in the morning and say, okay, I need that tool because I can't get to the end result of where I'm trying to get to without that tool. And so that's the conversation we need to be having as coaches, is talking about the transformation, talking about the problem they're experiencing, the transformation or the end result or the desire of where they want to be. And then how coaching is that solution in the middle. And the more we can start talking about it in that sense, talking about the picture that it paints and how we're the solution, the easier it is to enter into those conversations. And like you said, Diego, it's not a platform statement or an elevator pitch where you're going on and on for 5 minutes. It's being able to take what you do and break it up down into little sound bites and actually bring in sort of the experience of coaching while you're talking about what you do, by asking questions and getting them to open up while they're talking about that, and then coming back around to it to say, oh, that's exactly what coaching is. That's the solution we provide. And having them say, aha, I get it. Wow. They're going to be so much more bought into the process when you can bring someone in that way versus, throwing them an elevator pitch and saying, okay, now schedule a call with me. So
Yeah, and the second one, talk about the academy more that you started, but along those lines, talk about the mindset. I think when the coaching, the discovery call in theory is it's a conversion call also, right? But if you think about it, people say like, oh, I don't want to talk about. If you think about it this way, this has helped me. I'm curious what you think with people you help out. Think about yours. They're actually trying to serve someone. Like, what is the best fit for that person? Is it me or someone else?
yeah.
Because a lot of coaches, it's about us, and then we get. So if we say someone's saying, "Hey, I want someone to write a prescription for SRI," I'm like, "Oh, good, that's not me. Or I need like that's someone else, right?" Or I just went through a trauma. Okay, here's a trauma-informed therapist. I think you should go to instead. So if you just go, who's the right person for this? And you go with curiosity, and then you'll ask them what they're looking to solve and how they want to solve it. And oftentimes, if they go, "I want something that's really tailored to me that follows my schedule," like, well, conveniently, coaching happens to be that, which is way more powerful than I'm going to adapt to you and this, right? So you're right. So if you actually go into it genuinely, how can I help this person today? I think you focus one of those skills, because coaching and sales skills, there's some overlap actually.
Yes.
Open-ended question. Let the client talk more than the provider, right? Now, when you do it with that person in mind, it becomes way easier. And then if you're not the right fit, guess what? It might come back to you later on, because I want to talk about this. I'm curious if you can talk about coaching. Sometimes is a decision people make. It's to make the decision. It costs a lot of money, some time. They may not purchase. We want them to purchase right away, clearly, but sometimes our clients come to me a few weeks later, a few months later. So one thing I try to do with Vibely, and tell any coach what platform you use, have a way that they link to you easily. Because when somebody's called motivational crisis, oh my God, I gotta get that picture on the wall finally. They don't think, well, where do I find a hammer? They go, no, I go to Home Depot. So my whole thing is I invite your clients onto your profile so they're linked. So this happened to me. I wanted to be coached. It was like the middle of the night. You can say, hey, can I see you tomorrow? Versus like, oh, I'll search for it on Monday. So think about it, you're nurturing this. You're not sure where it's going to go. And if you can leave that door open, so when they do have that increased need or desire to paint that picture ready for them. And if you do it in a way it's not, I think also when we're too nervous, it comes off in those calls. And if we can try to be as relaxed as saying, I'm just here for curiosity, see how I can help. It does invite a different connection with that potential client.
I totally agree. That's going to go back to kind of what we talked about before, which is all about practice, right? The more you can practice the act of doing a discovery call, the more natural you'll be able to be in it, the more you'll be able to like relax and let go of your notes a little bit, right? We actually, so Wellspired, we have a membership where our members can come to monthly continuing education and advanced skills training classes. And our one last month was all about discovery calls. We just did this. And every single week now, they have the option to come to a practice session because we taught them, I gave them a script. I gave them the framework to follow, right? I was like, here's how you do it. But it's not going to get better if I just give you that and then you jump on a call in the next hour and you've never gone through it before. We have to practice these things over and over again. And you're right. A discovery call is a whole different skill set in certain ways than a coaching session, because we're trying to lead them to understanding that coaching is the solution that they need. And that's kind of the ultimate goal, is like, let's do a needs assessment. What is it that you really need? I love that you said that. Let's understand that and ask questions about how we can help to either understand what it is you need or help you understand how the need you're asking for is actually exactly what coaching is. And so there is a framework. There's a process to get someone through that in a way that feels natural and authentic. And it's a skill set that has to be practiced. Absolutely. And then the beauty of the coaching session where we can lead them right into that next session. And we've got some great foundational pieces started because we had a great conversation with them. And it just we call it the customer journey, right? It makes the whole client or customer journey that much more powerful when we can put all of those pieces together. So one of the other things I was going to mention was you were talking about like the nurturing, or kind of how do we get in front of someone so that when they decide, I need a hammer, I need coaching, oh my gosh, that we're the ones that pop up in their head. And that is definitely why, number one of the reasons why getting yourself out there now isn't it, even before you feel like you're ready to bring on a client and start talking about what it is you do, the problems that you help to solve, things like that, as you're building or relaunching your business, right? We call that kind of like a buzz process. We want to create some buzz and excitement around what you're doing, so that when they do get to that moment that you talked about, that you're the one that pops into their head. And so we can do that through multiple ways, right? But awareness building is definitely one of the biggest ones to do that. So focusing on, how do I build awareness? How do I build awareness of what coaching is? How do I build awareness of what the problem is that I help to solve? That coaching is the solution that's out there, because maybe you're not the right coach for them, and that's okay. And that how do you make yourself uniquely different than any other coach that's out there? And if you can start getting those conversations in front of those people before they decide they need a coach, you're going to be more likely to be the one that they're going to. So, yeah.
So Jen, you mentioned framework a little bit, kind of discovery call process too. And my analogy, I like playing guitar, is that, we learn that coaching process. There's a lot of improvisation that happens. And doesn't mean that there's not based in something, not based in music theory, right? But I say our clients don't have the sheet of behavior changer in front of them, right? Or even with your framework for a discovery call should be covered. A client may ask the question. You're not going to say, no, slow down. I'm following the script. So I think, and to your point is, that's where the practice is what makes you able to adapt in the moment. If you just learn a scale one time and then to play it live, and like there's no, someone threw a different chord change, right? So the more you improv, I remember, like, how to learn improv on guitar. I remember that was a big question for me. And it's like, just start improvising. And you're like, but I don't know what I'm doing. You're like, so you get the framework, like the way you learn scales, but the song is not scales. The song is how you use the scales. And if you know for me, if I can think of a framework in my mind, I'm like, okay, the client's talking about a plan, that's planning, but we're still in vision. Let's target. Let's put that later on, right?
Yeah.
And you're right, nothing's going to replace that practical experience. Just saying Spanish, you can't learn to drive online.
Yes.
You have to get in the driver's seat and do that, whether real or your friends, but like they're all, and it can be really frustrating. You're like, oh, I messed up. Good. What you learned. You learned what you're gonna do
Exactly.
next time, right? You're gonna learn how to prepare for that question. Speaking of preparation, I know we can go obviously like I said a little bit over, but I'm really curious to hear a little more because Wellspired offers, we talk it's in general, but you offer so many different things under your company. And I wonder if you can clarify kind of some of the different services support you have for coaches who are just okay, well, how do I use some of these things? What's a good fit for me? Can you tell me a little about like kind of the different, you mentioned memberships, the business academy. Could you clear us like what they're used for and how they work together in that ecosystem you create?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So, for coaches who are, first getting started, maybe they're newly certified or they've been working with an organization like in a contract position or role, and they're finally like, okay, I'm ready to start my own practice. Or maybe you've been trying to like piece it together and you're like, this is just not coming together the way I thought it was. Or maybe you took a intro or beginner level class and it kind of gave you the super high level like theory of like what it is to start a business, but you kind of feel like some pieces are missing. That's what Wellness Coach Business Academy is really meant for. And we take you through kind of all the stages because just like we were talking about kind of with the discovery calls, right? Everything starts with a framework of understanding what is the right way to actually do this. And there is a right and a wrong way to put together your business where there's a foundational piece that is, going to be your kind of cornerstone or your base, if you think about it like building a house, your foundation of building your business. And that is going to be what everything else is built off of. And then we can start layering on those other pieces like what is your program going to look like and what is your marketing, right? And your marketing we always think about it as being like the biggest piece of your business. I have to figure out how to market myself. And to be honest, it's the very top piece, right? There's so many other things that we need to make sure we have foundationally in place and that are working really well before we even really get to the marketing piece. So Wellness Coach Business Academy teaches you how to go through those processes so that you set up a business that it's not just thriving and able that you can, run your business with ease because you've got systems in place and things like that, but it also is sustainable for the long term so that you can actually maintain your own well-being while you're running a business. It's the number one problem we hear not only from health and wellness coaches, but other business owners is the risk of burnout, right? And that's one of the main reasons why people quit their business. So our goal and our mission is to show you how to build a business and launch a business where you can prioritize your health and well-being as a health and wellness coach, because that's ultimately why you went into the business to begin with, right? And so we do that first and foremost, but it's not just a on-demand DIY style program where you just, follow the modules. It's mentor-led. We're doing it right alongside with you. You're submitting your homework to myself or one of our other mentor coaches to have them review. We call them marketing audits, where it's like, oh, hey, I put this material together. I put this thing together, my program outlined together. Can you take a look at it? And we can actually offer live feedback for you to be able to say, yeah, you're on the right track, or go ahead and tweak these things. So we're really doing it right alongside you. It's a mentor-led program. And that's actually open for enrollment right now. So we only have it open for a few times a year. It's open right now until Tuesday is when we close enrollment. So anybody who wants to learn more about that can go to wellnesscoachbusinessacademy.com and check it out there. So that's our primary foundations program. And it's great. Actually, we have a lot of coaches go through it if they are relaunching their business as well. They kind of, have done it, but they've never really been able to build traction. They're like, why is this not working? It usually comes back to some of those original foundational pieces. And so a lot of times they actually find a lot of value going through the program as well. When you enter into that program, you also get introduced to our community of coaches. And our community of coaches actually ranges anywhere from people who are just starting out to people who have worked in their own coaching practice for years and years and years. And so it's this great community that gets to kind of share their experience all together. And that's inside of our Wellspired membership. So if you find that you're at a place where you're like, I'm established as a business, or maybe I'm doing more contract work and things like that. So, but I really want to stay connected and advance my skills. That's where our Wellspired membership comes in. And we do monthly advanced skills trainings and the ability for our coaches to connect together every single week. It's just a fabulous community. And that's actually something that we include right away with Wellness Coach Business Academy, because we want you to meet those other individuals. We want you to see what the future holds, right? It's like, oh, I want to have a business just like Paula. That sounds amazing, or right?
Yeah.
So I know that our initial students really love it. But if you're past that phase and you're ready just to jump right into the membership, we have that as an option too. So
yeah, this is kind of thing that you can always. I think it's a good point that even if you're doing it for a while, sometimes if you're not going well, sometimes it's okay to go back to the fundamentals. Like when I skate, sometimes you go back to fundamentals, right? If something's missing, maybe do go through that course or something new. And it sounds like it's really not just here's a. I say it's about coaching too. It's something when someone tells you you have a personalized plan for you before they met you, it's not personalized.
Yep.
Or always coming, personalized wellness plan. I'm like, how are you sending me? How are you emailing that if you never met me before? And you're saying like that. The Wellspired Business Academy really is personalized. It's not just like follow these steps and like good luck on your own. It's like here's a theory behind it, but you have a mentor, the same way a coach, an expert, guiding you to that personalized journey, and not just making sure it's okay, but I'm assuming teaching the guests so you understand how to do it. Teach them how to fish. Right? Like how to think about this problem within a practical application of it as well, so you can continue to develop that mindset shift, right? And then maybe one day help mentor or help a fellow coach who is just starting out or trying to restart their career, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So Jen, please.
I was going to say, like, one of the most specific examples is when it comes to marketing, right? There's so many different ways out there that you can market your business. There's a million different ways, but you have to find the right way that works for you, because if you don't love it, and I'll tell you, when I first started my practice, everyone was like, you have to be on video. You have to go live on your face. And this was like back in the day when like Facebook Lives were a really, really big thing, right? And you had to go live all the time. And I did not like it so much that I would actually not do it. It caused me so much anxiety. And I realized after a while, like, why am I putting myself under this much stress and pressure? Why don't I just find a way that I love to market my business? I actually just had a meeting with someone else right before I jumped on this, and they love workshops. Like, they could do workshops all day long. They could do them in their sleep. And I was like, that is awesome. You found your avenue. You found your unique to you marketing plan that brings in your clients, right? And that's amazing. But someone else might be out there and be like, I can't even imagine going and doing a workshop. That sounds so stressful to me. Yeah. And in that case, that's great. Let's find what works for you, the unique to you marketing plan. And we do very much follow a very similar framework to coaching. There's so many times in the program that I kind of laugh a little bit. And I'm like, does anybody feel like this process feels familiar to you? Yes, that's right. It is very much a coaching process, right? We're going to dig into our values and our strengths, and we're going to find what works for us, and then apply the knowledge that we have about marketing to make something that works for you. So, yeah.
As someone who's gone through burnout and helps people with burnout and studies it, right? It's like, there's been many theories. I can't summarize it in 3 seconds, but one important factor is the things you like naturally doing, things you don't like doing. Every job's gonna have some ratio of that, right? Yes. But the ratio is really important for long-term burnout, right? So like, if it has to be, because it's that ratio over after a year or two, those numbers get big, right? And so to your point, I'm the opposite. For me, written communication, I struggle with. I've been able to do it enough to get by, but like, it feels like molasses to me. You say, hey, Diego, you want to have an hour-long conversation spontaneously? Put me in, coach, right? Or do a workshop or do something like that. So it's like saying what is sustainable for you and what's authentic to you, because when you're an authentic self, that's what resonates. Again, that the biggest predictor of therapeutic reliance, authenticity. People say, well, I can't do like you. Like, of course you can. I can do like you. Coaching is not about not being authentic. It's about being authentic through evidence-based lenses.
Yep.
Right. So now if you can find the one that's sustainable for you, because you are great at graphic design, you make the best flyers, and do your strength, right? And if you need the other strength part you don't have, okay, you might have to do a workshop here or there. I have to learn how to do writing no matter what I would do. You can't live without writing. But I try to amplify the ones that feel more natural to me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's a great call. There's no one answer to how to make a solo practice. The same way there's no answer how to be what it means to be well.
Exactly.
Right. And until you really adapt to that mindset, which I said, infused it into like the philosophy of how you help others. And I've met people independently of Jen who like, oh yeah, I know her academy is great. So I've met people who, your students, and nothing but great things. And getting to know you this year, Jen, every time I talk to you, I feel I learn a lot more. Your passion comes through. And I'm really happy to collaborate with people who have that same mindset. How do we help the coaching profession from all levels? And to me, solo coaching, autonomous coaching, that's where I saw the possible where healthcare could change. Because if you do what you love to do, when I'm coaching mental health, I had one time a client, real story, we had a 3-hour session one time. My last started at 8 p.m. We do usually hour and a half. And she's like, can I go longer? I'm like, yeah. I do time-based coaching, speaking of individual. I don't charge by session, I charge by time. I block an hour and a half off. Use how much time you want. Use an hour, half an hour. That's my rule. It doesn't work for everyone. It's what I like to do. She's my last client, 8 p.m. on Monday. Actually, the person I talked about earlier, the mom who wanted me to coach her mom.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm so sorry. I'm taking your time. I'm like, don't apologize. You're paying me. Self-care, right? Like parental guilt.
Yep.
And when she goes, you okay? I'm like, this is my jam. Supporting a family doing. Now, if it was 3 hours of weight loss coaching, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know about that. So find what's sustainable for you, right? And it's okay to maybe summarize this, that just like your well-being evolves and changes, balances, so is your business. Maybe in 3 years, it looks radically different. Coaching businesses are not, you have a contract work. That's okay. Don't let perfection be a greatness. You're going to learn about it by doing it, versus like, once I'm ready, I'll do it. It's a wrong approach. The learning, the doing is going to teach you something. So if you're not sure where to start, check out Jen Wright and Wellspired Business Academy. You need a platform, Bible's got you covered. But Jen, any other links or any things that people want to connect with you, to find you? I know you had, we'll put for everyone in all our platforms a link to our Business Academy as well, Wellspired. But anything else you want to add as we close off here, and before I give you thanks for being our amazing guest today?
Yeah. Go check us out, wellspired.co or Wellness Coach Business Academy are our two main places. We've got some great articles and blogs on our website as well that you can use as well. And we send out, great tidbits and information through our email list too. So there's an option on our website to join our email list. I highly recommend joining it. And that way you get to stay connected with us that way too. So thanks so much for having me on, Diego. This was a really fun conversation. As you can probably tell, I can literally talk about this all day long. So feel free to, if anybody's watching this and they want to continue that conversation, send me a DM, reach out to me. I'd love to chat. So.
Yeah. And just a reminder, if I remember correctly, Jen, you said Tuesday is the last day of enrollment for the Wellspired. So if you're curious,
yes,
don't, act now. Definitely don't want to miss out on that. So Jen, thank you so much. Again, I'm the same way as you, passionate about, people are passionate helping others. Thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for the work you do in Wellspired, and looking forward to continuing collaborating with everyone watching. Thank you so much. Any questions, you can always reach both of us and we'll make sure to answer them. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
All right. Great, Jen. So now that we'd finished, we're done recording.